Okay, and we are off and recording, and welcome to the 2023 faculty round of the 3-minute thesis. I'm Dr. Kate de Bruin. I'm the graduate research coordinator in the faculty, and I'm joined by my fabulous co-host, Mark Prine.
Woo! Hi, everybody. Hi, Kate. Welcome.
So fantastic to see such a turnout. I'm seeing all these tiles appear on my screen. I've now got multiple screens, which is amazing. Can I get a bit of a hello from Alice G from the Graduate Research Office, without whom none of this would have happened? Alice, give everyone a wave. There she is, humbly waving. Nothing moves in our portfolio without Alice arranging it. Thank you to Alice. All right, so let me get my sharing of my screen up and running. So huge thank you to everybody for taking the time to come along today. And we are beyond excited to get together once again for the fabulousness that is the annual 3MT event. I'd like to acknowledge that the land on which our faculty stands and the home of this faculty round is the land of the people of the Kulin Nation, and that the communities of the Wurundjeri and the Bunurong people are the ongoing custodians of that land for which sovereignty has never been ceded. I'm personally joining you today from land owned by the Bunurong people. How about you, Mark? Where are you joining us from?
Myself as well. I'm on the land of the Bunurong people.
All right, and for audience members and other folks here today, please feel free to put in the chat where you are joining us from. All right, Mark, tell us a little bit about the 3-minute thesis.
For sure, we'll give you a bit of an overview of the 3-minute thesis. I think most of you, the contestants and observers and panel and everybody else has heard about it, obviously, but the 3-minute thesis was born in a time of crisis. And we know something about crises ourselves and overcoming them. The idea of the competition came about at a time in Queensland when it was suffering some severe drought. To conserve water, residents were encouraged to time showers, and many people had a 3-minute egg timer fixed to the wall in their bathroom. This was similar to what we did in Los Angeles. In California, where I'm from, believe it or not, is a place that is a desert, actually not naturally replete in water. So I grew up with those as well. The dean of UQ grad school, emeritus professor Alan Lawson at the time, back to Australia, put 2 and 2 together, and the idea for the 3-minute thesis competition was born. And we can see a young Gru there celebrating shower time after limiting it to 3 minutes.
I must have misunderstood. I thought this was archival documentary footage of the dean of the UQ graduate school. My bad. So since then, since 2008, when that first competition was held at UQ, where there were only 160 student participants, since then, this idea that students should be able to communicate about their research and its significance to a wider audience beyond a specialist kind of field has grown. So since between 2008 and 2016, the competition grew first to other universities in Australia and then to New Zealand, turning this little UQ event into an international event that's now held in over 900 universities and across 85 countries worldwide. Then during the last 2 years, there's been more innovation as we've all had to learn to do a virtual event and then hybrid events. And once again, this year, we are in fact running the event in hybrid format. But I believe that's not the case for all the rounds, Mark.
Indeed, and while today's event is being run as a virtual one, the Monash University Wildcard competition and the Monash Final will be live events. The 2022 Asia Pacific 3-minute thesis semifinal and final events, 2023, pardon me, will remain virtual in format. And I think many of us have gone to many a virtual conference over the last 3 years, but also face-to-face. Competitors will be required to enter via pre-recorded video submissions for those international competitions. As such, following the Monash Final, the winner will be required to prepare a pre-recorded video presentation to be submitted to the Asia Pacific competition for the Monash folks person that advances to that level.
So it's great that you folks, who participants in today's event, have been able to have a crack at putting together that video and using the tech. So you know what that's all about, because I have every confidence at least one of you will be going through. So Mark, what are the rest of the events? Tell us about those. What's coming beyond the faculty round?
Well, we have our faculty round here with the winner receiving $1,000, runner-up receiving $500, and People's Choice Monash Graduate Association prize will be a $50 voucher. But then there's the Monash University final as well, which will come after that. The winner for that competition will receive $5,000 and entry into the Asia Pacific competition. And there's also cash prizes for the runner-up and the People's Choice there. Then the Asia Pacific final event itself also has a $5,000 research grant with some serious prize money as well for the runner-up and for the People's Choice.
I think it all sounds like pretty serious prize money. I certainly remember from my PhD days that any money would have been gratefully received. Any money is serious money. All right, so the competition rules, for those of you who do not already know these, is firstly that it is limited to 3 minutes. So anyone whose presentation goes over 3 minutes is disqualified. But that said, with video submissions, the presentation is considered to start when the presenter begins their actual speech. It's not from the beginning of the video. There are really strict rules around the slide. It's got to be a static slide. You can create a video where you cut to your slide, but only for a maximum of a minute. Otherwise, there are no transitions. There's no audio. There's no props, costumes. You can't do any spoken word. You can't wrap your presentation. No additional electronic media. It's extremely strict. The judging criteria for the competition is based on the quality of the presentation and how well it's communicated. So the presentation has to be really clear in terms of the background of the research and its significance, some positionality of the researcher, which has been added in this year, clarity around the strategy that the research is following, the design that's being used, the findings and the conclusion, the outcomes and the impact. But it's not just reciting a little summary of that, which could be a bit dry. So your presentation delivery has to be appropriate for a non-specialist audience, accompanied by a slide that enhances the spoken content, but it needs to also capture that enthusiasm, maintain the audience's attention.
Now, my cat, Lucy, and I, she's sleeping right there, and she may want to come and listen to some of these presentations. We're both so excited about this event that I smushed my last slide and this slide all together in what I said before. So we've gone over the prizes, and that's—
I think it's worth going over again, Mark, because there may be some audience members today who didn't realize just how big that prize money is. So no need to read it out, but anybody watching, take note. This could be you next year. We would encourage you to start planning now.
If I could reach behind me, I would do a drum roll, but the winner is $1,000 today in our faculty competition, the runner-up $500, and the People's Choice a $50 voucher. For the Monash University final, that's a $5,000, as you'll see noted there, an entry into the Asia Pacific competition. Runner-up is $2,000, People's Choice is $500. The Asia Pacific final, the winner will receive a $5,000 research grant. And we know how much transcription and despite AI or conference regio or other kinds of things, $5,000 can buy, with $2,000 for runner-up and $1,000 for People's Choice.
I was just thinking the same thing. Just think how much travel that would buy a PhD student or tech. All right, now I'd like to introduce the fabulous judges that we have here today. And Mark, it's a real shame we haven't got that drum kit set up, because I'd love to have a drum roll to introduce Professor Stephen Roberts. So Stephen is the Professor of Education and Social Justice here in the faculty and in the School of Education, Culture and Society. He came to us from the arts faculty. We were able to steal him across, Lord knows how. He's an internationally recognised expert. His work is very much grounded in social justice and equity, brings that sort of sociology lens to the faculty, and looks at things like the changing nature of men and masculinities and some risky behaviours. And on a side note, Steve manages, is the head of the graduate research team in which I work, and a genuine delight to work with. So thank you so much for being with us here today, Steve. Next, jumped a slide. Next, we have Professor Paul Richardson, who has very kindly put this event in his calendar today, alongside the busiest day I've ever seen in a calendar. I nearly fainted when I realized just how many other things he was fitting in today, but Paul wouldn't have missed this for the world. Paul was originally the Associate Dean of Research in the faculty, and I personally had fantastic support from Paul when I was a PhD student. He's been a long-standing friend and champion of quality graduate research in our faculty, and we're very grateful that he's taken the time to be here with us today. Oh, I forgot to mention that Paul did some really cool longitudinal research on the motivation of beginning teachers. I believe that a little known fact about that project is that it had just the lowest attrition rate of participants ever, because the participants enjoyed being part of the research so much. And then we have the fabulous Chantal Braganza. Now, as you can see here, Chantal's profile lists her excellent skills in sort of administrative areas like coordinating and delivering events. Now, those are true. I've personally benefited from Chantal's amazing skill set there. But what she humbly omits to mention is that she brings the sparkle and pizzazz to every event she's involved in. She brings that today. She'll bring wonderful expertise to considering students' communication style and delivery. So while Stephen and Paul will bring different kinds of research expertise, Chantal will bring expertise in thinking about how students talk to a non-specialist audience. Now, another little known fact about Chantal is that she is a brilliant dancer. And I'm personally pressing for next year's event to be held in person. And Chantal, if it is, I'd like to invite you to develop perhaps the 3-minute thesis dance special.
Kate, if I can mention that Steve and Paul also have heaps of pizzazz, but different kinds of pizzazz.
Indeed. Now, Paul, I happen to know a little known fact about you is that you play the trumpet. Stephen, could you bring any special musical skill set to an event next year?
Sadly not. That would be really terrible for everybody involved, I think.
All right, thanks for the due warning. I'm going to make it my personal mission to find out little known facts about you to pepper the event presentation with next year. All right, Mark, tell us about last year's faculty round winner.
Well, last year's faculty round winner, which was an interesting hybrid event with participants on video, on Zoom, and then presentations in person. Our winner was Kong Lem Nyo, and we have a little overview of their presentation from last year. So we're going to have a look at that.
All right. Now let me juggle my sharing settings to get that right. Okay, let's hear this presentation one more time. She says, pressing go, hopefully.
As we are living in a constantly changing world, being able to make change is critical to our own existence and future development. In this process, educational change plays a fundamental role, for better or worse. That's why countries across the globe are spending billions of dollars on educational reform projects, hoping to upgrade the quality of education. Change, however, often turns out to be a complex and difficult phenomenon. In Vietnam, for example, the government spent almost $500 million on reforming foreign language teaching practices. However, after more than 10 years of implementation, the project is considered a failure because it couldn't generate significant change in teachers' everyday classroom teaching. This points out the fact that in order for real change to occur, teachers as their frontline workers and their change practices must be understood better. In my study, I looked into how Vietnamese tertiary teachers experienced educational change in their local reform context, roping into how they understand, how they experience emotionally, and how they actually realize the curriculum changes in their own classroom. For my data collection, I interviewed teachers, observed the teaching, asked them to reflect on their emotions, and analyze policy documents. What I found is striking differences among teachers in terms of how they understood and responded to the local reform. Also, it is interesting to find that though working in a changing environment, the teacher might not be aware of the need to generate new changes. And when they did, they were unsure of how to do it. So my research has implications for a new type of literacy. I call it change literacy, which should be part of pre-service teacher training and teacher professional development. Also, drawing on the theory and the findings, a new conceptual framework was proposed for the purpose of optimizing educational reform projects. And it starts with fostering teacher agency in everyday classroom teaching. My studies informed me that change is a collective process, but it starts with each one of us. I'd like to conclude by sharing one of my favorite quotes from Mahatma Gandhi. Be the change that you wish to see in the world. Thank you.
I'm inspired all over again. All right, thank you very much. Now, once again, I've managed to strong arm a member of the faculty into doing their own 3-minute thesis presentation. And this year's will be presented to you from Dr. Zoe Morris, who's an absolute delight. I can see all these faces nodding around the room like, yeah, Zoe. And I have to say that I checked it to make sure the tech was working. And every time I listen to her present, I just smile. So I hope you have that experience. Let me get this presentation up. Complicated sharing settings again.
My research career actually began the day I began practice as a psychologist. I walked into the office and found the client files of the psychologist before me to be in complete disarray. There was private and sensitive information all across the office in manila folders labeled by year instead of by student name, with all different names of students within each year. I realized that implementing policy and evidence-based practice does not always happen in the real world. Further, I found that educators and schools were using interventions that were not evidence-based, and therefore we couldn't be sure that they might make an impact or support the goals that they were seeking to address. So my research career began. I wanted to explore and understand how to best implement policy and evidence-based practice in mental health and education settings. In particular, my first packet of research was exploring ethical practice through understanding of the current practice of educators, psychologists, and counsellors. I explored teacher-student boundaries on Facebook and social media as it was emerging, and I explored the understanding of consent and confidentiality, or the agreements that clients make with us and the things that we might need to keep private or share with other people for their safety. And I explored how the practitioners might understand or not understand the policies and codes and guidelines that relate to them making decisions about what to share and what to keep private. I also have been examining cases of misconduct in psychologists and counsellors in order to understand any themes or patterns in these cases where psychologists severely depart from the expected practice and codes and guidelines. I've also been interested in how we can best support student learning and well-being in schools by using resources effectively and selecting interventions that are evidence-based. It's incredibly important that schools use their resources effectively because teachers and educators and psychologists all have a really high workload. And so we want to spend the energy in a systemic way that best uses those resources, and also in a way that uses data to make decisions in order to best support students at the level of need that they have at the current time. We need to be responsive to students, and the multi-tiered systems of support is a structure by which we can do that. I'm currently exploring how we can best support schools to implement this multi-tiered system of support, or MTSS, to improve processes around the implementation of these practices, and also to build staff capacity and enhance collaboration between educators and psychologists.
That was fantastic. Kate Zoe's work is really impressive, as was her presentation. I was also taken with her opening anecdote of having private files left open out in the public. Reminds me of something I think in the news, some former recent, maybe I'm remembering that wrong.
Oh no, sadly, I think those kinds of breaches are all too common. I remember when Zoe talked to me first about her work in professional ethics, and I was like, tell me how that's interesting. And then she did, and I was like, all right, that is really interesting. All right, so I believe it's now time for us to move to our student presenters. Let me. And first up, we have Gloria Guo Zhang, who is former teacher and lecturer and very interested in change and communication, particularly in terms of language in education. And her 3-minute thesis presentation video is here. All right, judges, are you ready? I'm hoping that's a silent yes from the judges. Let us begin.
The darkness around us is deep. A line from William Stanford's poem, A Ritual to Read Each Other, describes the difficulties in communication. Such darkness also exists in Asian educational research, where Western concepts are adopted uncritically. The local knowledge is not recognized, which may lead to the failure to address the cultural nuances. As countermeasure, Asian studies at times have gone to the extreme, privileging local knowledge to ignore global perspective. How to solve this paradox? My answer is Asia as method. It avoids binary views expressed either in Anglo-American centrism or Asia centrism. Fresh and innovative Asia as method encourage dialogue across East and West by valuing local knowledge and recognizing global perspective. The COVID pandemic has re-emphasized the message we humans are connected and co-creators of our global community. Thus, as global citizens, we should transcend the artificial division between East and West to co-conduct knowledge production. Hong Kong, the context of my research is a place where East meets West, with its British legacy influenced by globalization, as well as a little bit of Chineseness. My research investigates how policies is implemented in post-colonial secondary schools, focusing on how school leaders, teachers, students, and parents interact in the policy process. To answer this, I start with a Western-influenced network governance theory originating from neoliberalist thought. However, there is still a disjuncture between the theory and what is happening in Hong Kong. So what does Asian mean in the context of Hong Kong? That is Chineseness and harmony. Participants seem to seek harmonious relationship in the negotiation and conflicts with each other. Asia as a method allows me to identify and adopt these competing but compatible concepts, to unpack how actors insert their voices over the fabric of social harmony. Asia as a method represents a light at the end of the tunnel for me. I hope it will bridge social research, breaking down the East-West dichotomy and valuing the interplay between global, colonial, and local knowledges. That is, it is light, shades of gray than the otherwise deep darkness.
Fantastic. Gloria, are you here today? There you are. I can see you. Congratulations,
I'm here. Thank you.
Gloria. It was a very interesting. I liked your little sign and the way you connected it to the post-colonial context of Hong Kong, as well as post-colonial theory. That was really interesting and very, very beautifully made presentation. So well done. Yeah, lots of love for you happening in the chats there. All right.
Well done. I'll introduce our next presenter in a second, but just want to do a quick query. Are folks hearing the volumes okay? I had one message that the videos were unclear. I'm hearing voices and video okay. Can we do some little gestures and whatnot? Okay, maybe we're okay. Good. Well, it's my pleasure to introduce our next presenter, Vicki Kennard. Vicki's PhD focuses on using discourse analysis to make algebra more engaging and accessible through manipulatives. Her presentation title is Relating Lower Secondary Students' Use of Algebra Tiles to Their Algebraic Reasoning. Can't wait to see this presentation.
All right. I am just going to take a moment to get that up and running. Bear with me, folks. I'm just going to try and adjust the sharing settings and see if this helps the video. Share.
Factorize x squared minus 3x plus 2. How are you feeling? A little bit nervous, anxious? Not sure you came for a maths test? Well, these feelings are not unusual, and our students experience this in the classroom as well. And in fact, students pick up on these ideas, these emotions from their peers, their parents, and even sometimes from their teachers. And this has led to declining numbers of students wanting to take mathematics at higher levels in school, with a knock-on effect to university courses in engineering, mathematical, and data sciences. But in today's high-tech, data-rich world, we all need to be numerate. We need to be able to understand and interpret correctly the statistics that are in our media, to be able to understand complex ideas like AI, and even to be able to do our taxes. So how can we make algebra, well, mathematics and algebra in particular, more meaningful, visual, and creative for our students in the classroom? The algebra we use today has taken millennia to be developed, and yet we expect our students in the space of a few lessons to be able to understand the vocabulary, interpret these symbols used, and be able to use and manipulate these in problem solving. What I want to do in my research is to take a pedagogy, a method of learning that's commonly used in lower primary school, and to use it in high school. To take physical materials, manipulatives, and the particular one I'm looking at is called algebra tiles, and to use these physical materials to help students create visual, tactile models of the equations and the expressions that they're being asked to use for problem solving. They can take these tiles and physically manipulate them, build models, move them around, and to help support their understanding of what they are doing as they are problem solving. And once they've mastered using the physical materials, they can move on to drawing diagrams and finally to using the symbolic algebra notation that we are familiar with. I'm going to be looking at how students communicate as they are using these physical tiles, how they communicate with their teachers, with their peers, how they express themselves as they are problem solving on paper. And hopefully we can then find ways to genuinely support students in the development of their knowledge of abstract concepts, building visual and creative models. Oh, and if you're wondering about the problem I set at the beginning, we use the tiles to build a rectangle using something called the area model. And the dimensions of our rectangle will then give us our factors. So x minus 2, x minus 1. Thank you very much.
That was fantastic to see Vicki's presentation. Well done. Are you about, Vicki? You want to give us a wave? There she is.
There she is.
As a former primary school teacher, your presentation about how to bridge that gap pedagogically was fantastic. Thank you very much.
And I actually was really interested in it as a disability academic, because we talk about using manipulatives with students with disabilities. But of course, you know, I love the way that that's being now extended across all students, upwards from primary school and across from the kind of special ed model, because it turns out they're good for everybody. All right, now our next presenter is Melody Tang, who will be talking to us about Chinese international graduates' employability. Give me a moment while I get her presentation up. Can I check, by the way, was the volume better for people who were struggling with volume before? Was that improved or no different? All right.
When we walk on a beautiful university campus in Australia, we can see students from around the world, each with their dreams and aspirations. They come to Australia for a world-class education and a brighter future. However, despite this popularity of studying in Australia, international graduates struggle to find jobs here. Interestingly, Chinese students represent the largest group of international students, but they have the lowest employment rates. I was one of them, and I used to have a struggle as well. So I was motivated to explore the stories behind this and also seek some insights for improvement. Instead of looking at the external influences like policies, rules, or how employers hire, I focus on our own individual resources that we bring to the table. And these individual resources include our professional knowledge, skills, personal qualities such as connections, cultural knowledge, and more. So through surveys and interviews, I investigated the contributions of different forms of individual resources to Chinese international graduates' employability in Australia. And I discovered some fascinating findings. Firstly, social connections received the lowest rating. So the graduates did not simply rely on social connections to find a job. They also understood that a healthy and sustainable relationship deserves longer time and trust to build and nurture. They focused more on improving their English, knowledge, and skills under their student visa and post-study work visa. Secondly, cultural knowledge received the highest rating. Despite some challenges in acquiring it, the graduates managed to work professionally and appropriately by comprehending the cultural differences and expected behaviors. Thirdly, all these individual resources are not just about finding a job. They also improve the graduates' well-being, help them pursue their passion sustainably, and enable them to grow professionally. My research aims to empower international students and graduates with insights on developing and utilizing our own individual resources to better navigate the Australian labour market. It also contributes to developing thriving communities by addressing the challenge of workforce readiness. My research also provides higher education with insights in developing programs that enhance the graduates' employability, keeping Australia at the forefront of global education. Thank you for listening.
Fantastic. Are you here, Melody? Oh, there you are. I can see you smiling up there in the corner. Melody, it was so interesting. I've worked with you for so long through the MERC committee, and I've never had a chance to really hear you talk in depth about your research. So that was personally a delight for me to hear. And also I was just thinking about how important a topic it is now that we know that fewer and fewer academic positions exist, and more industry pathways are emerging for PhD graduates. It's an ever-growing area in terms of importance.
And even though we're just 3 in, I think Melody is showing us, along with our other colleagues, just the high quality of these submissions this year, but also their variability, just different ways of conveying visually and audibly. I was also keen to, I think, hear a bit of magpie song in the background of yours, Melody, so that was always nice. Our next presenter is Alina Zitman. Her PhD examines the long-term benefits of learning music in relation to residents of aged care facilities. Therefore, her presentation is called Music Education in Aged Care.
All right, and let me juggle the sharing again.
Hello, my name is Alina Zipman. I'm a PhD student at Monash University Faculty of Education. I'm presenting my 3-minute thesis presentation. Imagine that you're visiting a loved one in an aged care facility. You pass a lounge room, you hear a familiar tune of Ode to Joy, and you see a man sitting at the piano. There is a walking frame next to a man, and there are weights on his arms to stop his hands from shaking. He doesn't see you and he doesn't hear you. He's in a state that psychologists call flow, a state of forgetting self and surroundings. Let me introduce you to Herbert. Herbert is one of the 2 participants of my research on music education in aged care. Herbert is 80 years old. He has Parkinson's disease, and he lives in a supportive care accommodation because he needs assistance with his daily living tasks, such as showering or getting dressed. As a child, Herbert was told that he's tone deaf, so he never learned to play a musical instrument. But now, as an older adult, without musical background, Herbert learned to play piano, and his story is a part of my thesis. By giving weekly piano lessons for a period of 12 months, we discovered that passion was at the heart of Herbert's music learning. 3 critical things came together to support Herbert's passion. There are continuous learning, continuous participation, and psychological resources that you can see in a diagram on the screen. Herbert has a disability. He has difficulty walking, and he has ongoing tremor that stop his use of hands for eating, drinking, and writing. Because of this, Herbert assigns many tasks to his memory. On this photo, you can see Herbert playing piano from memory to focus on technical aspect of his piano playing. Herbert's grit, Herbert's positive attitude, and Herbert's passion drove his music learning. Despite chronic tiredness, one of the symptoms of Parkinson's disease, Herbert made his way to the lounge room to practice piano up to 3 times a day. When he was told that he doesn't have to practice if he is tired, Herbert would always say, "Oh yes, I do. I have a will to play." My study advocates for bringing continuous learning resources to residents of aged care facilities because learning new skills benefits their well-being and contributes to their quality of life. Piano lessons were highlight for Herbert. Daily piano practice filled Herbert's life with meaning, purpose, and occupation, something to live for and enjoy each day. Thank you very much.
Alina, are you here? Oh, there you are. I can see you smiling. Mark, I'm going to jump in and say I had such a personal response to this. My father had Parkinson's disease, and we were always sort of given to understand that he couldn't learn anything new. So I really like that your study is going to break down that kind of idea, because I can see how beneficial it is for these participants. But it also reminded me of a choir I used to sing in at Christmas time, where we used to go to aged care facilities and sing really old songs, some Christmas carols and some just kind of, old time tunes. And there were a lot of people there with dementia who had not talked for years. They'd lost the power of speech, but those old songs, they could still sing. And I remember the nursing staff astonished that people they'd never heard say anything sing complete whole songs. So I love that you're doing this research with people in aged care facilities. I think it's incredibly important. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
What a touching anecdote, Kate. And thank you so much, Alina. That was fantastic.
Yeah, it really was. All right, next up, we have Amani Al-Samrani, who focuses on research in terms of the agency and professional identity of teachers. She's examining this using an ethnographic approach in Saudi English language setting. And give me a moment to get her presentation up. Lots of love for the presenters in the chat, by the way. I hope the presenters themselves are enjoying and basking in some of that glow.
Are you a teacher and struggling to make decisions in your professional development journey? I am one of you. For many years, I had this persistent question in my mind. What are the roles of teachers in the higher education system? How much space do they have in order to make decisions? And is their professional environment supporting them towards growth, development, and decision making? For this, I interviewed teachers and administrators in a language institute in Saudi Arabia. It is a part of the higher education system and operates within the same structure. I also analyzed policy documents that regulate teachers' daily practice. The findings suggest that teachers lack the means and opportunities for professional development and decision-making within the working conditions that they described. Administrators also seem to be placed within the same working conditions, hierarchical structure, and power relations. Policy documents also revealed that there is control ideology that is spread and sustained through text and power relations within this environment. This, of course, concerns me as a teacher and a researcher, and I'm hoping that this research will improve the working conditions of teachers in the higher education system in Saudi Arabia and beyond. I am also hoping that this research will inform policymakers in their future plans regarding reforms and policy development.
Fantastic. Thank you, Amani. Professional learning is so important. Teachers have to go on learning forever. They can't be static. Oh, there you are. Can you give everyone a wave so they can see there you are? Yeah, I was really struck by the importance of that. I think professional learning is understudied in some ways. Is that what you're finding? Okay. Next, who do we have, Mark?
Next, we have Wenjuan Zhang. They're interested in pedagogies used within early childhood mathematics education in China and are using a cultural historical approach to research this. Their presentation is entitled Empowering Kindergarten Teachers to Create New Play Conditions for Every Child, Everywhere, a Conceptual Play World Approach.
All right, just
by the way, Kate, you've been handling the AV wonderfully. Let's give it up. Let's give an applause for Kate. Well done. This is always challenging. I was always very excited in primary school to be the AV person in the room and operate the overheads. You kids wouldn't know what that means.
I think you're being far too kind. In our preparation meeting yesterday, Mark asked me how I was going, and I said I'm flying by the seat of my pants and crashing often. So at least it's all going all right today. Okay, share.
Look, they're playing. Teachers play the role of Monkey King, while the children act like the little monkey in the story. In such a playful situation, what kind of knowledge do you think children are learning? Drama or maybe music? If I told you that children are learning mathematics, what do you think of this activity? Play-based learning is a concept that is not new in education, especially in the field of early mathematics education. Play is defined as the best way for children to learn, and it is highlighted in the curriculum all around the world. But do you know, many kindergarten teachers have their own anxiety about how to design play activity to promote mathematics learning opportunities. And there's an uncertainty about what role teachers should play in those activities. To help teachers better understand and implement play pedagogy, my research aimed to apply an innovative play-based model, which is conceptual play world, to support teachers' professional development. In conceptual play world, teachers and children can build an imaginary space collectively. They act like play partners, dramatizing the emotionally charged problem and solve those problems by applying mathematics concepts. We explore this model and find two significant contributions. First, teachers can take character roles in facilitating play and mathematics learning at the same time. In this case, the little monkey helps the Monkey King to reach her destination by drawing a map. The Monkey King raised questions to deepen children's mathematical thinking. Through solving those dramatic problems, children's spatial skill will develop. The experiments show that teachers who are inside the imaginative play can provide the opportunities to not only maintain the motivating conditions by developing the play, but also meet teachers' teaching agenda for supporting children's mathematics learning. Second, both children and teachers had a rewarding experience in conducting conceptual play world. Qing, one of my participants, feel refreshed by supporting children to propose innovative strategy to solve the problem in a collective imagination space. The mathematics anxiety disappeared. Qing gained more confidence and happiness when seeing children actively engage in the co-constructive playful situation. The creativity and the flexibility of conceptual play world allows the teachers to incorporate their teachings ideas with different cultures and teaching styles into the imaginative play. People who can imagine it come from the future. It is time to empower our kindergarten teachers to use the imagination to bring meaningful play activity for every child, everywhere.
Wenchuan, you bring so much enthusiasm. I'm delighted to see not one but two researchers bringing kind of interesting techniques for teaching mathematics in one in high school and one in early childhood, and addressing that all important area of minimizing maths anxiety, which certainly my children have experienced. Wenchuan, do you want to give everyone a wave?
Well done. Everyone is just bringing their A game today. It's so exciting.
They really are. Now, can you match it? Zainul Yazni, you're up next. Zainul is looking at the influence of socio-religious beliefs and values on the leadership practices of leaders in Indonesian Islamic schools. So departing from the mathematics theme and going towards leadership, give me a moment and I will bring up that presentation. Sorry, technical hitch. Give me another moment.
I think maybe we should do some sing-alongs during.
I feel like we do need, there we go. Sorry, just the link just wasn't playing. It was just spinning wildly, but we are now there. Allow me to now present this next presentation. Nope. Wrong.
Old MacDonald. E-I-E-I-O.
There we go.
Extremisms, intolerance, incompetence. Those words often used to describe Islamic school leaders. These negative stereotypes, in fact, in contrast to what I experienced. I was educated and raised in Islamic schools in Indonesia, and I really know what happened inside. This led me to conduct the research. I interviewed 25 Islamic school leaders in Indonesia, and I asked them how their beliefs and values shape their leadership practices. And there are three major themes emerged from my inductive analysis. And these three themes cannot be spread each other. There's a God spot. This is about the vertical relationships between the individual leaders and their God or their religions. And there is a people spot. This is about their social or horizontal relationship with others. And there is a profession spot. This is about the roles and professionalisms of leadership. These three must be balanced in harmony. If the leaders only focus on the God spot and the people spot, they will lose their role and professionalisms. If the leaders only focus on the people spot and profession spot, they will feel loss of meaning and purpose. If they only focus on the God spot and profession spot, they will be disliked or isolated. Therefore, these three themes must be balanced in harmony. This study will contribute to the growing body of knowledge and literature in the field of educational leadership. Furthermore, this framework has the potential to be adopted by other faith-based schools such as Catholic, Jewish, Hindus, and other faith-based schools all over the world. More importantly, practitioners, policymakers, and stakeholders can apply this framework as a guideline to develop a training for religious school leaderships to make the leader no longer being viewed as intolerant, extreme, and incompetent, but instead will be loving, tolerant, and competent. Thank you.
I'm blown away by the technical prowess of some of our presenters. Fantastic work in that last presentation. I can see you there looking proud as punch. Well done. Lots of enthusiasm in your presentation, and really important field,
Agreed. Well done. Oh, that's me.
That's you. Who's up next, Mark?
Our last presentation is by Simon Zhu. Simon's research focuses on critical consciousness for social justice in relation to high-achieving school students. Their presentation is entitled "The Development of Critical Consciousness in Academic High Achievers," and is our last presentation.
It sure is. Saving the best for last. I'm sure you're thinking, Simon. Let's hear it. Sorry, this sharing setting's doing my head in.
In the 2010 film Despicable Me, we follow the journey of the supervillain Gru away from a career of evil and towards a path of goodness. In contrast, in the acclaimed television series Breaking Bad, we follow the journey of Walter White, a brilliant but docile chemist who utilizes his remarkable talent for his own personal greed and gain. Across both stories, we see how the prodigious talents of the protagonists are either applied towards societal good or evil. How then do we ensure that our most gifted and talented students follow the path of Gru towards social responsibility instead of down the more self-serving path of Walter White? The role that education plays in the moral development of talented individuals is complex and incredibly important. That is why my thesis focuses on how academic high achievers develop interest in issues of social justice. I used to work as an English teacher at an academically selective secondary school in Australia. During my time there, I met many middle school students who were aware of and interested in challenging issues of social injustice. These issues range from confronting student bullying to combating climate change. However, by the time the students reached senior school, it seemed as if they were no longer interested in these issues, doing well in their upcoming examinations now predominated as their primary focus. In turn, I wanted to understand how schooling influenced the way these academically talented students engaged with issues of social justice. The results from a survey of academically high-achieving secondary school graduates revealed that these students were able to critically reflect upon a range of different social issues. Academic high achievers were able to think critically about issues regarding race, gender, and class discrimination. However, the survey also revealed that many academic high achievers did very little about the issues that they understood so well. Many of the participants pinpointed their senior secondary school studies as a potential cause for this lack of action, viewing these studies as a time-consuming process that did not reflect real, authentic learning. We are therefore left with a strange phenomenon. Despite their mastery of the senior secondary curriculum, the academically high-achieving student sees little value in what they are studying beyond it as a means to an end. As a result, we may question the effectiveness of the current curricula as a means of producing capable and socially responsible citizens. The results from this research show that the pathways we lead our most gifted and talented students towards are always worthy of scrutiny. Overall, this research highlights the importance of education in affecting social change. More specifically, the understandings of social justice that we, as educators, pass on to our most talented students is one that we should never underestimate nor overlook.
Love that we finished on a theme of social justice there, and you know, moving to really authentic learning beyond just mastery of the curriculum, but to, you know, deep learning and what does that mean beyond school?
Absolutely. And the final presentation, I very much enjoyed the cultural references as a former New Mexican, although I was never involved in the drug trade, and as an appreciator of the GRU and Minion movies. But I tell you what, Kate, all of these presentations collectively, and each one of them individually, just reinforce in me pride and excitement to be part of this faculty with such a talented group of graduate research students. I'm just pleased as punch.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm really blown away. The standard's been fantastic. You've all really risen to the challenge of producing a video with not much notice. We did hold out hope for an in-person event for quite a long time. But I'm also really enjoying hearing about areas completely outside my own and the fantastic work happening inside our faculty. Presenters today, I hope you're enjoying the love that's being expressed for you in the chat thread. Please take a moment to read that while I sit here and bumble about with the breakout room that I'm going to put our judging panel into now.
Well, while Kate organizes that, I can share that our plan here, once we have our judges into their breakout room where they will deliberate and work it out for 10 minutes, we as a group are going to be taking in a bit, and Kate will talk more about that, just a wee stretch, maybe get a cup of tea, pet the dog, pet the cat. So that's what's going to be happening.
All right, now judges, I have just invited you all to a breakout room. Now, I'm about to open a poll. Give me a second. I practiced this.
You got this.
I can do this. All right, everybody. So perhaps what I might do is quickly go over the slides one more time of each speaker. So before we open the poll, let's go back to, so our first speaker was Gloria, who spoke about policy and reform processes and change. Our next speaker was Vicky Kennard, who talked about using manipulatives in mathematics and made us all feel faintly anxious with an algebra question at the beginning, and then resolved that anxiety at the end. Classic narrative arc in the presentation.
So good.
And then we heard from Melody, who talked about graduate employability, particularly for Chinese students. And then we heard from Elena, who talked about instrumental music learning in aged care facilities. And then we heard from Amani, who talked about teacher professional identity and agency in Saudi English language higher education settings. And then we heard from Wen Xuan, who talked about early childhood mathematics education in China using play-based approach. And then we heard from Yasni, who talked about leadership in Islamic schools in Indonesia and the kind of socio-religious beliefs and values that intersect with leadership there. And then we finished up with, Simon, who talked about critical consciousness in academic high achieving students. All right, we have their presentation titles embedded in the poll. I'm going to launch the poll now, and everybody, you can vote for the People's Choice Award. Who was your personal favourite that you would like to see win today? You should all be able to use your screens to make your choice. Oh, I can see it's going to be a close race.
Oh, it is too. And of course, while we're using the traditional, for want of a better word, approach to voting and winners and runner-ups and that kind of thing, I think Kate and everybody will agree that everybody did just a fantastic job today.
I absolutely do. You know, it's one thing to do a PhD, which is hard enough, but then to take time out and pit yourself against this task is really extraordinary. And I also think very valuable. Back in the day, I did this competition. Did you do this competition, Mark, when you were a PhD student?
I didn't, but a number of years ago, we had, I think, a 4-minute competition of sorts for academics in the faculty. It was so fun, and I did it then.
I did it, and I found that it made me a much better communicator of my research. There were certain terms I stopped using. I became able to talk about it much more clearly, which meant that I was also able to write more clearly. Any of the participants, have you found that? Did this force you to think and talk about your research in a clearer way? Yasni, you're nodding. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Kate, that is what I have experienced because I'm doing policy, and a lot of my friends in the PhD hubs, they are working on individual teachers, agency or identity. So sometimes they told me it's difficult to understand policy, especially when I involve a huge amount of stakeholders. So for me, this is a great opportunity for me to reflect how to express my research and the impact to laymen and convince it in a more comprehensible way. Yeah,
absolutely. Breathing life into policy. Amani,
sure.
I could see you were nodding as well. You found the same?
Yes, actually, at the beginning, I found it like so challenging to put all my big ideas and research together in a short talk. So I had to note down like some big ideas and then make them small. So it was a really good practice for me because now, like towards the end of my PhD candidature, it's time to actually learn how to communicate my research findings in a clear way to anybody. So yeah, it was a really good practice. Whether I win or not, it's really like winning for me.
And Yasni, I could see you nodding before as well. Tell us about your experience. Did this assist you to communicate more clearly?
Yes, it is a great opportunity for me as well to communicate and also to separate the values that I found from the values and the wisdom that I found from my participant. And I think the values and the wisdom that I found, it's really important to be spread as well, to be a part of in the academic community and contribute to the knowledge as well as our main role as a PhD researcher as well, I think. And these opportunities give me opportunity to tell others from not only in my field but also for the other fields that this research has the potential as well to be adopted by others.
Yeah, fantastic. Really communicate its importance across areas.
Yes.
Now, I've heard from one participant in the audience that they're unable to vote in the poll. Is anyone else? Can you please pop a message in the chat? Because other people seem to have been able to vote, but one has not. Anyone else? I'm not seeing the numbers go up any higher. Anak, would you like to send me a private message? And I will add your vote to the count.
Good solution.
Do you know how to send a private message? Instead of saying everyone, just choose my name, Kate, or perhaps Dr. Kate. Okay. I've got to. Vicky, did you find this was beneficial for your ability to communicate about your research?
Yes. I mean, I'm often asked, what am I doing? And I have to explain it. But it did make me think, yeah, definitely. It made me think in a more sort of logical, sequenced way about what I was doing and why I was doing it.
Yeah, nice. I heard it referred to recently as the barbecue conversation, the way you can talk about your research. What about you, Simon?
Hey, while Simon's coming on board, I prefer to think of it as the cocktail party answer, a bit of a martini. But it really does help you to boil everything down right to its essence and highlight the most important parts, which you all did.
And think about why it matters too, I think.
Exactly. Simon, did you mic up? Where are you?
Yeah, I think the hard part was cutting out all of the fancy jargon and just making sure that it was straightforward and also, I guess, relatable to a general audience. So
fair enough.
And what about you, Wenjuan and Amani?
Yeah, I find it's really helpful for like improve my significance of think about the significance of my research. Since when I introduce my 3-minute thesis, I want to let other people know why this is matter for everybody, and why this is really important and people should pay attention to. I think this is the most rewarding part for me.
Fantastic. What about you, Amani?
Yes, so as I told you, it was a really good practice for me because now I'm reaching the end of my PhD candidature, and I feel like I need to communicate my ideas, like big research ideas, very clearly in small situations. So it was a good practice. And at the same time, I found it like, again, like difficult to replace the words or the word choice for example, discourse, how to say discourse to someone who is not like specialized. So I was like, what is the equivalent word in meaning? So then I came up with the word ideology or beliefs or control, something like close to the meaning. And then the word agency. Sometimes agency is not, even for us researchers, it's difficult to define. So, you know, how it is for others. So then I thought about the word decision making. So it was a really good practice, like, you know, linguistic and in research, like research wise. So it's, yeah, it's really helpful. And also when I saw like my colleagues' presentations, it was really good because I never got the chance to see their research this way. So it's really good.
It's almost three-pronged. I mean, we get to see what everyone else is working on. It's true for us as academics in ongoing jobs. Like that's Jonathan and Susan down the hall, but we don't know what their work is.
Exactly.
So you get to find that out, but also you get to see how others successfully kind of hone it down to the key ideas. And then for me as well, in a real nerdy way, I'm like, whoa, how did they do that visually? And how to present in creative ways?
It's so impressive, so impressive.
What about you, Elena? Tell us about your experience with doing 3MT. Did you find it was beneficial for your ability to communicate about your research?
I think the hardest thing is to be concise, you know, about your research and and to be simple. And like for all the years I've been actually working on my research, you know, I've been thinking about it because like in the first year, you know, one of the presenters said you have to be able to explain your research to your grandmother. So I've been thinking about it for all these years. And it's like, if you ask me now, I still find it difficult to explain because, you know, all of the difficult terminology comes through like musical, instrumental music, positive aging through instrumental music learning. And it's very complicated for people who are not academic, you know. So when academics ask me, what is your thesis about? I say it's about all the people learning new skills, you know, music education, HK. But again, it just doesn't say anything, you know. It's really, it's a very, very challenging to be concise. And I think it's a really good exercise to be able to do it.
Any final words to people in the audience today who might be flirting with the idea of perhaps participating next year?
I think it's important to get yourself out there and to allow other people to know about your research, to let them know what you're doing, because otherwise it's just like all of these years of research, being spent in a silent four walls, just between yourself and your supervisors. And what we're doing at Ford, because we want to make a difference, we want to bring change into the areas of our research. So, and the only way to do it is to actually get courage and to go out there and to present and to advertise your research.
Nice, nice. Getting yourself out there. Now, I would like to introduce everybody to Jessica, who is from the Monash Graduate Students Association. Jessica Fimmel. I'm just going to try and bring up your little slide. Jessica, can I get you to give us a wave? Where are you?
Hi.
Oh, hang on.
Apologies for the delay there. Can you hear me?
I'm just going to untick some boxes. So
I just can't hear you. One moment. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, perfect.
So Jessica, what are you going to tell us about today?
Well, I thought I'd do this a bit 3-minute thesis style, but you'll have to bear with me because I'm not under the same pressure as the students. So we'll see how this goes.
Your time starts now.
No. So I work for the Monash Graduate Association, which is the representative body for graduate students here at Monash. But I want to take you years ago when I, like you, was a PhD student. And back then I was living on a PhD stipend. I was living in a share house and things were pretty tight financially. And living in a share house, you get some pretty interesting people that you live with. And I got to the point where one day the fire alarm went off. Someone had left a pot on the stove. I was like, I'm out. I can't do this anymore. And I started looking for a new place for myself. And I realized just how expensive that was. So what I decided was I just needed to get another job. I needed more assistance with my finances, and I looked for other options that were available to me. Now, fast forward 10 years, and I see not much has changed for graduate students. We still, they're still really struggling financially. There's a rising cost of living, continuous raises in the mortgages and interest rates. And so our organisation has been looking at how that really impacts on graduate students. So in the past year or two, we've done a survey on health, family and finances of graduate students. And what we found from that was that over 60% of graduate students are in some form of financial distress. And if we look a bit closer at that, of those graduate students who are renting, 86% are in rental stress. And of those with mortgages, 70% are under mortgage stress. Now, those figures are really alarming when we consider that there is a noticeable link between financial distress and an increase in dropout rates from your graduate degree, delays in milestones, and just general problems throughout your candidature. Now, this is where ourselves and a number of the services at the university come in to support you. So here at the MGA, we have services that will support you if you're starting to feel socially isolated, like our HDR social night that we run each month. We have a welfare assistance program. So if you're struggling financially and you just need a bit of money, you can come talk to us and we have some options available. Another thing we've done is we partnered with the Department of Psychology and we've created the Monash Thrive portal specifically for HDR students with a range of mental health resources and general wellbeing resources targeted specifically for PhD students like yourselves. As well as this, I encourage you to reach out to the Monash Counselling Service, who provide a free independent service to students, and it's really good to talk through these things. So if I go back to me 10 years ago when I was a PhD student struggling financially, trying to make all my ends meet, I reached out for help to the Graduate Association, and I spoke with one of our advocates to get advice on my course progression and how everything was tracking. And I also reached out to the counselling service as well, just to help my mental health. So I encourage all of you to do the same and know that there's a range of resources available to you. You just need to reach out and ask. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Jessica, I've sent you a private message. Can you give me the thumbs up that you have received it? All will be revealed later, folks. Can you send the, just click on the chat. You should be able to see it down there.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
Perfect, got it. All right. Now,
Very well said, Jessica. It's so important that our students avail themselves of the services that you provide, and also to hear some of that research you were sharing, just concerning, but the fact that you all are there to support is great. Also, you came in at 2 minutes, 58 seconds, so well done. Actually, I did not time it, but I bet you did.
No, we'll say that sounds great. I definitely did, yeah.
I was just reflecting on how important it is to share this message of all this support. You know, we've come out of a few years of, you know, pretty difficult circumstances with lockdown, and now the rise in the cost of living is really making life hard again, and particularly for PhD students. So thank you so much. Now, I promised everybody a movement break, but I'm going to break that promise. So,
Oh boy, Kate, tell you what. All right.
Because I can see our judges are back, and I don't want to make everybody wait to find out what happens next. So the next thing we're going to have is Jessica. Could you please announce the People's Choice winner? Who won the popular vote?
I just want to say there were some amazing presentations there, and I learned the breadth that there is within the education faculty. So thank you for educating me on the range of research. The winner for the People's Choice Award, as sponsored by the MGA, was Melody Tang. Melody, I'll contact you after this to arrange to get you the MGA prize pack and the gift voucher. Congratulations.
Huge congratulations. And to people who didn't get the People's Choice Award, can I say that it was a very tight race? That's all I will say. And then I'd like to hand over to Stephen Roberts, who's going to talk to us about the judges' decisions.
Thanks, Kate. Congratulations, Melody, on winning the People's Choice Award. Now, I don't know whether you all realize this, but we took till the very, very last second, and probably longer than we had as a judging panel to make our decision. It was so incredibly tough. Like, I know there are cliches and people often say this kind of stuff when we're when we get around to making a decision and talking about how great everyone was, but it was so tough. I couldn't believe the variety of work on display, like really demonstrating the scope of the things that we do, but also as Kate and Mark mentioned throughout, the different types of approaches in kind of visual and audio ways and storytelling ways was all really, really great and made it so difficult. But without further ado, I guess I should get to where we ended up. So the runner-up is Amani Al-Shamrani. Congratulations, Amani.
Congratulations, Armani.
If I can just say very quickly, to summarize, I suppose, there were a number of good things that we saw in this presentation, but the articulation of the problem, the issue, and the speculation still that we understood was built into the presentation and what might come next. But yeah, the articulation of all the key points and the matching the criteria really well, and as well as being well delivered. So well done.
That's really great. Thank you so much.
Okay, so goodness me, and it was so difficult. The winner, and the winner, again, in a similar way, capturing the kind of essence of the 3MT in the way that we judged it to be resting on its intellectual component and communicating that intellectual component theoretically, methodologically, and in terms of its significance. This is where we think this presentation just about stood out from the rest. And the winner is Simon Joe.
Congratulations, Simon.
So congratulations, Simon.
Wow, and that's not an easy job for the judging panel. That's just parsing fine little hairs Let's please give a hearty round of applause with your real hands or with the cartoon imagery. Well done. Thank you, panel.
Congratulations, Simon. And thank you very much to the judges. I didn't envy you your job. I did think it was a really a tough call this year, and that was reflected also in the People's Choice polling. To those of you who poured your heart and soul into presenting for us this year and didn't win, if you have the opportunity, you might be able to compete again next year. And you might have inspired a few people in the audience today to have also, did Paul, Chantal, did you want to add anything to Stephen's words?
I would just say that it was really nice to see the confidence that came out from everyone as they were presenting, and that they were quite articulate and they knew their research, which angle they were coming from. So it was really nice to see that as well.
Yeah, I would add it was a very interesting task that we were given, and I don't say that lightly. I think the area that really people could focus on in the future if they come back would be really this whole theoretical framework and design issues that it's very difficult to do in a 3 minutes thesis, but it's one of those things that I think really is important in many ways. So congratulations to everyone. I really thought they were great presentations. And I do admire your skills in designing the one single slide. I've never been able to do it.
Not to mention compressing, 80,000 words into 3 minutes. It's an impressive feat. Now, Mark, would you like to tell everybody about what happens next?
I would love to. As a reminder, put on my spectacles. We have the Monash Wildcard, a 3-minute thesis competition. That's June, July. Yes, sorry, I was confused a second. I thought, why, that was yesterday. So that's in a little under a month coming up. Then we have the Monash 3-minute thesis final in August on the 21st. And of course, as we were talking about before, the virtual Asia Pacific 3-minute thesis competition is going to be taking place starting in September. And so those are our activities. And then you can take a quick snapshot of that URL and get more information there.
Thanks. Stephen, did you have anything you wanted to add about people's presentations today or the event?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a few thank yous. So yeah, thank you for everybody. Again, this is repeating lots of what's been said as we've moved through, but thanks to all the participants for showcasing that super high quality and the variety of work that we do in the faculty. And I think Mark was saying earlier that it's that rich variety that makes us feel proud of the faculty that we work in. So I want to echo that thought. And also made me think that I think it's a reminder that we as a faculty staff should do more to be exposed to doctoral work as well. Like, doctoral work is really strong and interesting, and hearing more than 3 minutes from time to time would be a good thing for us. So moving beyond the milestone kind of format and thinking about student presentations in a seminar format, I think is something we have to consider in the future, because there's so much good work going on that we should all be not just observing, but learning from as well. So congratulations to everybody for stimulating the kind of thinking that you do. And also, yeah, thanks to everybody that's just turned up. There's a big number of people here, which is great. And as Mark and Kate have said, as we've moved through, the enthusiasm in the comments and the love for one another is like really touching and sweet to see. Like, it's a real, a really strong example of the community that you're forming. So well done on that. And I guess, so yeah, lastly, thanks to Kate and Mark again for hosting and emceeing the event in what is, I'm learning is their inimitable style. I've seen them do this 2 years in a row, and truly no one is more perfect in the faculty to do this. So thanks so much for doing it so well again, keeping us entertained and on time. Thanks to Alice for all the organizing that happens behind the scenes, and thanks to Paul and Chantal for assisting with the judging. So well done.
Now, I would like to allow Melody the opportunity to perhaps say something about being the People's Choice Award, encouraging people to participate next year. Melody, last words from you.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Well, I would say like it's a great opportunity for us to, you know, at least for me, it's a good chance for me to get to know the purpose of 3-minute thesis. Because a lot of time we see like researchers, academic, they're at a very higher level and far away from the ordinary people, but that's not the case. So 3-minute thesis give me the chance to like imagine myself as the ordinary person, and if I can understand what I'm saying in a very common way, so that we can have like the friendly connection between researcher and the public, not in a very academic way, jargon way, but in a very simple way. So definitely I would like to feel so grateful for your support, for voting for me, for your choice. And also I would like to encourage for those who are very keen on improving your own like communication and the pitching skills, that would be a great opportunity, and there's no loss. So why not? Yeah, thank you again. Thank you for supporting me, and congratulations for those for our winners and runner-up. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and to all participants, and a reminder that for all participants who presented, who put presentations in, you all get the prize of 2 MDP hours credited to your record. So there's a nice incentive to participate. Those of you who are thinking about that for next year. Certificates will be emailed to participants, and certificates will be emailed also to winners of the 2 categories and to the runner-up, and prizes will be deposited. A huge thank you to the judges for giving us their time. Very busy people, and they all accepted without a moment's hesitation, which just goes to show how highly valued this event is. And once again, thank you to Alice, without whom none of this would have happened.
Kate, because we were so terribly efficient with time, but would either of the other colleagues up on the podium care to say a word or two, or anyone else, any closing thoughts? Like, thank you, Mark? No. Great, and a huge thanks to Kate, because beyond Alice and there are about 3 brainiacs and hard workers behind the scenes that really make this happen. I'm not one of those. Kate asks me once in a while if I want to go ahead and help her out with the emceeing duties, but Kate is one of those 3 main people. So thanks to you, Kate. And
My pleasure. All right, well, I hope to see you back again next year. Thanks so much for coming, audience. You've been a great audience. Hopefully we'll all be in a room together next year. Thanks again, everyone. Bye.
Bye.